probably not too many people on earth that aren't thinking about either their wealth or their happiness, on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. There's something in this book that can help almost everybody on earth, kind of no matter where you are or what you're working on.
A little bit about Naval for anyone who doesn't really know who he is. He's an ultra successful investor. He invested early in Twitter and Uber and about 70 other exits, I believe he has. But all of his sort of wisdom and insights that he's sort of left scattered around, what Eric's done is a major service by collecting all of those, gathering them into one single book that's super accessible and useful and valuable.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored, and thanks for having me here to blush through that whole intro.
You're probably the best person to tell listeners a little bit more about who Naval is, because you're much more intimately acquainted with him.
The very first concept for this book was like, hey, I'll throw some like transcripts together, like couple pretty like quick and dirty kind of thing. It'll be a 3-month project. And then as soon as I kind of had, I just tweeted this idea, and Naval retweeted it, and a few thousand people were like, oh my God, yes, please do this. And Naval's like, I'm happy to support, here's everything you need and to get going. I was like, oh, okay, like I will now give this like maximum effort. And it was just immediate scope creep to like, here's 100 sources, here's 1 million plus words of source material. I'm going to spend 3 years on this thing. And the first version of it that I built was like, it was almost like Poor Charlie's Almanack. It was like, it was hundreds of pages. It was a comprehensive, like everything that Naval had ever said categorized. And I went, and as part of the process of trying to like publish this book, I haven't written a book before. And so I did like a peer review process, and I just gave an early manuscript to probably 20 friends who were kind of all over the world, or readers, or people who were interested. My mom was on the list, like, everywhere from college students all the way on up. And we got great feedback on certain sections, but almost everyone skipped some piece of it. And there was like this overarching feeling of like, oh, I feel bad because I gave up at some point in this book, even though you told me I could skip around. And I thought that was a really interesting observation. I was like, yeah, man, I don't know that I feel, even if I really enjoyed what I read, I don't feel great about books that I haven't finished. So I cut a lot of stuff that was, and when I say cut, like another piece of that realization was just putting it out on the website. Like, it doesn't go to waste. It's just only accessible to the people who like finish the core book, really love it, and want to go sort of choose their own adventure through more of Naval's ideas. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole kind of decision-making process around that, but it was a long journey to to get to the book you see now.
I mean, Naval himself, he said that he doesn't really read books to completion anymore, or right, use it as sort of a vanity metric. Full disclosure, I totally use that as a vanity metric. but I totally sympathize. You don't have to read a book from front to back. There's if there's a section that interests you, go there first and get what you want, like get what you need. I always say, the best book to read is the book that will help you solve your current problem. If it's the Naval almanack, as it's called, is like separated into wealth and happiness. So if you want to focus on either one of those, just go to that section.
There's probably not too many people on earth that aren't thinking about either their wealth or their happiness, on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And I really think there's something in this book that can help almost everybody on earth, kind of no matter where you are or what you're working on. It's a very timeless, and that was some of the criteria that I used when I was kind of whittling away at what got to stay in the final version. Is like, is this still going to be relevant? Is this relevant to as many people as possible? Is this going to remain relevant for 10 years, 50 years, 100 years? So, the thing that'll tell me this is really successful is, I appreciate you recommending it now. I hope you're still recommending it in 10 years. And I hope, you buy a copy for your kids or something like that. Yeah. That is the highest compliment I think a book can get, is getting that kind of like Lindy, like intergenerational timelessness.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't see anyone becoming disinterested in wealth and happiness.
Right. Yeah. Naval says like some of these like ancient problems require ancient solutions. That just kind of keep getting rephrased for the modern world. And we're struggling with many of the same things we've been struggling with for a long time. And you like to think we keep getting better at it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned the Lindy effect, and that's basically, if something's been around for a long time, odds are it's going to be around for much longer. And I find some of the best books to read are the ones that are thousands of years old. I consider the Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. That's experienced a pretty big resurgence, and for good reason. Seneca, All that, like all that
Art of War is another
2,000
one.
years ago.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Book of Five Rings. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. A desire is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. And I mean, that's from memory. I mean, like I think about that myself all the time. You know, it's like, when is that not going to be true? I mean, it's always going to be true. Everyone's going to need to hear that. You know?
Yeah, Naval has such a gift for distilling. You know, I mean, on the one hand, there's nothing super original about that insight, right? Like that is fundamental Buddhist wisdom, and he says that himself. On the other hand, it is a real skill to compress all of those lessons into 6 words that you can remember, that stick in your head, that guide your decision making, that make sense to so many of us. The first time we hear them, you're like, oh shit, like, yep, like that solves like a tension or an ambiguity that I've carried with me for years, and like I can use that tool to now live my life and make decisions better. Like that is an incredible skill.
To do something great, sacrifice is a part of it. It's just the start of it. You can't start and quit. You have to harness this, because energy is bliss. And when I swing, I miss, but then I swing and hit. So I'ma swing again, and I'ma swing again.